was trying to decide what I wanted to think about and had a completely different topic, and I don't even know where this title came from, somewhere. Creative power. I could not have given this talk a year ago. The title, for anybody who doesn't know, is The Gift of the Conspiracy Theory, What Going Down the Rabbit Hole Can Do for Our Spirituality. And I could not have given this a year ago because I would not have considered myself a conspiracy theorist. And I don't know that I would identify as a conspiracy theorist now, but something has changed in the last year and a half. And something changed particularly around the Charlie Kirk assassination. I didn't know who he was. I'd never heard of him. I didn't follow him. But there was something about that incident that shifted for me. And it made me look at it a little deeper, beyond the news, the regular news, beyond what I was being told. And of course, one rabbit hole always leads to another rabbit hole. It's a whole channeled system. They don't exist independently by themselves. But just to get us started, because of course I had to Google the top 10 conspiracy theories. And it's interesting because depending on what search engine you use, you get different results. But just by round of applause, I'm just interested in hearing who has heard of these different conspiracy theories. The Illuminati and the New World Order. Okay. Clapping does not mean that you subscribe or that you believe they are true. It's just that you've heard of them. That was, they didn't put them in order. They just gave the top 10 based on, yeah, you're fine. 9/11 was an inside job. The JFK assassination. The moon landing hoax. Reptilian shapeshifters. Flat Earth theory. The dead internet theory. Extraterrestrial cover-ups. Vaccine and medical conspiracies. This one I had not heard of, so I'm interested. Birds aren't real theory. Y'all can go down the rabbit holes on your own time. I was just curious as to, yeah, birds aren't real. So a conspiracy theory is defined as a belief that a secret but influential group is controlling events behind the scenes. The Charlie Kirk incident, it was interesting because, again, I started going down different rabbit holes and looking at different things. And then I started thinking about, well, when does a theory become a conspiracy theory? Because one of the things that I started getting sort of into was the Council of Nicaea. Everybody know the Council of Nicaea? When Emperor Constantine got together with all of the bishops of Christianity, and one of the things that I found interesting is one of the things on the agenda was to define when Easter was going to be. That's one of the things that the Council of Nicaea did. And I grew up in a Lutheran church reciting the creed, the Nicene Creed, and all of that stuff. But some of the information that I started reading was that the Nicene Council was essentially a power grab. to take Jesus' intended ministry hostage because Constantine recognized how powerful it was. And he was very scared of losing power. He didn't care about the ministry. He was interested in consolidating that power because it meant power for him. I thought that was interesting. That was an interesting piece of information, a perspective that I had never heard before. From there, I started reading things about different books that weren't included in the Bible. The Gospel of Thomas, the secret book of John, the Gospel of Mary Magdalena. Interesting. Never heard that Mary Magdalena was like the most favored disciple by Jesus. Like his number 2 wingman was a woman. Interesting. True? I don't know. But an opportunity for a different perspective. And so when I'm talking about the gift of the conspiracy theory, it really got me thinking about the importance of getting a different perspective. And one of the things, the first gift that I recognize the conspiracy theory has given me is the gift of examination. And that a year and a half ago, I was very willing to dismiss other perspectives. How do I know? How do any of us know what is real, what is true? How do we know? I just assumed that everything I was always told about the Council of Nicaea was real. I didn't even think to question why there would be a different perspective. Is there a potential that there was actually something different going on, or something in addition to that we haven't been told about? I had never even thought to think of that before. When I was growing up in school, in elementary school, who am I to question the narrative of Christopher Columbus and what he did? He showed up and everybody got together and we had a lovely Thanksgiving. I mean, that's essentially what I remember, until I realized the first time I heard that Native Americans never had ownership of land. They did not operate, their system did not operate on the system of owning land. The first time I heard that, I was like, wait a second. Maybe there's something a little bit deeper to this story that I haven't been told. And so in this examination of things, regardless of what it is, regardless of what piece of information it is, what I had to be very clear about is how willing I am to be dismissive of things that don't fit into my worldview. And to be quite frankly, it's lazy. Because if I start to look at my worldview, I might have to change a few things. I might have to start looking at things and saying, maybe there's something deeper here. I might need to actually inform myself in a different way. So that's gift number 1, the gift of examination. Number 2, the gift, and this is a secret weapon power, the gift of discernment. The gift of discernment, I was thinking about this word discernment because it's different from judgment. Judgment is a reaction. You don't think, you just react to something in judgment. Discernment, you're able to pause, you're able to take a breath, you're able to choose a response, you're able to say, let me just push the pause button and give this a moment to settle. And I would say between our powers of understanding and will, discernment is right there in the middle. That I have a will and I have the ability to understand. And when I combine those two, that is the place of discernment that I get to. Because again, how do we know? How do we know when something's true? And one of the things that I've started getting better at and used to, and I'll tell you what, because it puts you in a place where you kind of got to own it, and it's scary. Because it's easy to say, well, so-and-so told me, the news told me, da-da-da-da-da, I got this information from somewhere else. But when I use my own discernment, now I have to use my own soft technology and feel into this, feel whether it lands or not. And what do we say when something lands? We say, that resonates with me. What is resonance? It is tapping into identical frequencies. It is a congruent frequency that lands differently in our bodies. And we've all had this experience that when we meet somebody or when we hear something and it just doesn't sit right with us. We can't always give it words. We can't always say why it doesn't sit right with it. We can't always back it up with logical, rational thinking thoughts because it oftentimes isn't rational. And so this is how we learn to override our discernment and how something lands and how something resonates with us in our physical bodies. And I am inviting us today to start getting back to that, to actually start getting in tune with our physical bodies, because our physical bodies do not exist outside of our emotional body, does not exist outside of our mental body, does not exist outside of our spiritual body. Like, this is how fantastically made we are. And who benefits when we believe that one exists outside of the other? Who benefits? Any number of people. When I believe that my mental state doesn't or exists separately out of my physical body or outside of my emotional body, everything existing within the spiritual body. So if you ask me, I don't think we're in a state of mental health crisis. I think we're in a massive state of spiritual crisis because we're trying to separate everything and make it all outside of each other. So the gift of the conspiracy, discernment, our discernment, I get to take what resonates with me and leave the rest. Take what serves, leave the rest. Take what benefits, leave the I don't have to fight it. I don't have to argue about it. I just get to say yes to the things that resonate with me and no to the things that don't. And the third gift of conspiracy is clarity. When the veil unravels. Everybody familiar with the Wizard of Oz? The moment the curtain gets pulled back, and everybody realizes it's just an old guy in a little tiny booth pushing buttons, and Oz isn't real. Clarity. It doesn't mean that all the bad things disappear, but for me, clarity extinguishes fear. It extinguishes it. I clearly see what I'm dealing with now. I might not know a way forward, but I no longer have to be afraid of it because I have clarity. And when we have clarity, our mind can find direction. Clarity, because I'm a unity, and I'll take Yvette's word, practitioner, Yvette doesn't say Unity student, she says practitioner. Feel the difference. I'm a Unity practitioner. Because I am a Unity practitioner, I have these 5 spiritual truths, principles that I get to fall back on. So clarity extinguishes fear because I know that God is all. I truly believe that. That resonates with me. There is one source, one power, God, the omnipotent. Unity principle number 2, I am God. Like, that is finally what is resonating with me. It's not like, it's not this small little, I get this tiny piece of God, and hopefully I'll be good enough someday to like really own that. No, stop all of that. Stop. It is time to stop playing small. We are in the midst of the great awakening. Like, we are it. We are consciousness walking around trying to experience itself, wanting to experience itself, wanting to know itself through the individuated expression of each and every one of us that is sitting here. Direct lineage. Direct lineage. I'm always creating. I'm either consciously co-creating with God, unity principle number 3, or I am unconsciously creating without awareness of God. We get to choose. Free will. If I want to consciously create with God or as God, I must commune with God. I must be in the internal dialogue that is allowing me to actually make that connection. And I don't know about you, but I got a lot of voices up here. And they're not all beneficial. And that's part of my free will choice, is to tune in and to start tuning out. And, because honestly, people, we can spend decades in therapy uncovering and unraveling all this stuff, right? Who hasn't done it? Years. But that still doesn't make the connection. We have to choose the connection that right here, right now, my past does not have to dictate what my future will look like. And will I stand up and finally own my divine right of a full expression of God? Fully expressed. And to stop handing my authority and my power away. In the last unity principle, I express as God. And so what is it like to wake up in the morning and to know that you are God having squeezed itself into a body? When you're standing making your morning coffee, are you thinking, oh, wow, God gets to taste coffee? And this morning out on my deck, I was outside and I was just watching the leaves on the trees, and it was just like, it was so beautiful. And can we start seeing the world through these eyes of creation that need us in order to see? God needs our eyes to be able to see what has been created. He needs my nose to come in here in the morning and smell and say, oh, there's lilies. Those smell really nice. They're a little intense, but they're nice. So where do we go from here? If we know that we're in an information age, we're being bombarded with information all of the time. How much? It's like too much to even process on any regular day. And there's a couple of things that I'd like to kind of tie this up for everybody. And where do we go from here? I think one of the most important things is a recognition of our power and of our sovereignty. Sovereignty. That we are free will beings. I get to choose, you get to choose. We each get to choose. And sometimes poor choices will be made. We each have sovereignty, and we each get to have a conscious choice of consent. In that sovereignty, we get to decide what we're going to say no to and what we're going to say yes to. And one of the things that I have found that is different now than it was a year ago, if we know that every single word and thought we think or say carries a vibration and a frequency to this, and I really struggled a lot of times because, Unity says, bad things, evil things, horrible things do not need to have power over me. And I know that I am not the only one who has struggled with that statement before, right? Because there's some factual information out there. When you look at it, you're like, I don't know, it feels like it has a lot of power over me. So I've switched that to the phrase, I do not consent. If I know that every single thought I think and sentence I say carries a frequency to it, I might not be able to go out and change our political system. I might not be able to go out and stop our military from having PSYOP operations against its own people. I might not be able to stop any of that. I might not be able to stop pharmaceutical commercials that go on forever telling me how sick I am on TV. I might not be able to stop on that, but I can stand and say, you know what? I don't consent to that any longer. I don't consent to that. I don't consent to that. I don't consent to poison in my water. I don't consent to poison in my food. I don't consent to wars being started that I don't want to participate in it. Can everybody feel the difference of that phrase alone? Of you might not be able to do something right now to change it, but you've got power in where you spend your money, the words that come out of your mouth, and how you feel about things. And a year ago, I would have, I do not consent. I don't consent to this stuff anymore. No, absolutely not. And lastly, where do we go from here? Living life audaciously. Living it from a place of love and joy and playfulness. It is one of the most audacious things you can do. It is one of the most audacious, bold things any of us can do, because when we live joyfully, playfully, and from a place of love and play, we're automatically saying, I don't consent to all that other BS. Have it. Go do your thing. Don't include me. I'm not coming to that party. I'm not coming to that party. And it's powerful. Living audaciously is one of the greatest acts of defiance. Living joyfully, living playfully, it is one of the greatest acts of defiance and one of the greatest ways that you can use your power. And that would be my invitation to each and every one of us today to start waking up to this idea of, when you hear a conspiracy theory, who benefits from me not investigating that? Who benefits from me not believing any of that? It's an important question. Now, I'm not going to walk to the end of the earth and see if it's flat, see if I fall off. I have no desire to do that. But it is an opportunity to start challenging our own ways of thinking. And so one of the things that sort of this journey, these rabbit holes have taken me down, I've come across a set of teachings that have really, really spoken to me. And so to wrap all of this up, I would like to do this, I'd like to read this prayer. And there's a few words in here that you might subconsciously think, ugh, that's weird, what does that mean? Just go with it. There's some, it's only a couple words. But I would invite each of us to really embody this idea of being a living, expressing version of God, so that when you leave here today, that you feel some of that power, some of that discernment, and you can also just feel it in your body right now. Sitting up a little straighter, breathing a little deeper, feeling a little bit of joy in your heart. So, we ready to do this? I don't know, Jimmy? You want to just, something quiet in the background. The silent strength, you can close your eyes if you like. The silent strength of eternal grace expressed now and in this place brings forth the loving comfort, peaceful solace in the face of disharmony, suffering, or spiritual challenge. The silent strength of eternal grace expressed now and in this place. It brings perpetual renewal by the way of eternal living light. A stoic, noble stance I will hold in appropriate and perfect bearing in the context of the circumstance around me. The power of my burning passion to be enacted and brought forth through spiritual love, reverence, and loving respect. The unknown and uncertain circumstance will be met with calm bravery, self-reflective clarity, great patience and tolerance. In loving humility, gentleness, and harmlessness as the will, the means, the way of safe passage. Absolute, unshakable conviction, I affirm the will to be my fully Christed existence. The eternal Christ blood, love flow at once stoic and noble, currently existing condition, fills now completely this vessel to be brought forth through the will of spiritualized Chalet. The eternal Christ blood, love flow at once stoic and noble as currently existing condition, is now engaged in reuniting polarities, absolutely stated, affirmed in action, complete, consummated, birthed now of spiritualized Christed state. In unshakable conviction and absolute manifestation, power, harmony, joy, co-resonance, expressed now and in this place, I journey onward to God's source, which I am. To enter into Christed existence, be enacted and brought forth through the Alereia, first eye of God. By the power of my will to become fully engaged, embraced at one with, and renewed by my eternal Christed Spirit. In loving humility, gentleness, and harmlessness, in stoic and noble, personal intention and passionate desire, by the way of loving strength, affirmation and statement, my safe passage through eternal Christed Spirit domain, through the doorway of eternal life, I state and affirm with absolute, unshakable conviction the will to be as the eternal Christ star body in the transcended Christed state, now and forevermore. Spoken as it is stated, and so it is done. Thank you, everyone, for allowing me to be here today. Thank you, Claire. Thank you. Thank you.